It's that time of the year. We're early on in the spring season. It's that time where we're going through our homes, going through our closets, getting rid of some of the things we don't need anymore, making some donations, cleaning up the house, and getting ready for renewal and rebirth in a new season that is the spring. And that's something you can also do with your mind and with your mental health. And joining us to talk about that and more is Kelly Hausman, a counselor, a licensed professional counselor with Kelly Hausman Counseling. Kelly, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on the show to talk about this because it is an interesting concept. We go into this season and we think a lot about our homes. We think about maybe our offices and and other spaces that we're cleaning out. But often there's so much going on in our heads to clean up that we're either not paying attention to, or by the time we're paying attention to it, it's so cluttered we don't even know where to start. So, in terms of spring cleaning your mental health, what is a good starting point?
Sure. So the first thing you can do is kind of take inventory of what you need to let go of. Like you mentioned, a lot of times we're really focused on cleaning out our closet, decluttering a kid's playroom. But the first thing we really need to do is really making some space for positivity in our lives. And that can mean maybe letting go of a grudge that you've held on to for years, or forgiving yourself for some kind of mistake that you feel like you've made in the past, or, even speaking your mind on something maybe you've been holding back on. But basically, kind of letting go of some of that stuff we've been holding on to, a lot of the junk up there, to make space for some more positivity in our lives.
And it's a great place to start too, because usually the time of the year that people are doing something of this nature is at the beginning of the year. January 1st, the end of the year, they're saying, okay, it's a clean slate, it's a new year. That the cliche is new year, new me, but why not do that a few times throughout the year?
Yeah.
And this is a great time of the year to do that as we continue to see how we change over time, and how this year and the past several months, past several weeks may have affected us. So as they're doing that internal assessment and as they're considering some things to change or some things to reassess, what are some of those key points they should be looking for to mark down as, hey, here are some positives and here are some negatives that I may want to be looking more into, and then take that next step?
Sure. Like you said, I haven't heard anyone mention a New Year's resolution in, gosh, a couple of months now.
Yeah.
So even just revisiting those goals that you had going into for the beginning of the year, maybe they were physical fitness, or, eating more fruits and vegetables, eating healthier, working out, reviewing those. Because, yeah, here we are. It's almost April. Again, most people's resolutions are things of the past, but don't let those go. Think of what was important to you at the beginning of the year and remind yourself why they're still important now, too.
And part of that too is to get away from some of the natural and unnatural, frankly, distractions that we put into our lives every day. So much of what we do, whether it's work, whether it's personal life, certainly our social life, is online. And as much as we hear about the pitfalls of social media, what we don't hear about are the positives of taking a step away from that technology and looking inward. So where should people start on that end, as it's a tougher task than it is on paper in today's world?
Oh, yeah. And I will admit, I am addicted to technology as well. I spend way too much time scrolling on Instagram and social media. So it's something I want to personally work on too. And, I think just being aware of how much time you're spending on social media and what feelings it's bringing up for you. Me personally, a lot of my clients, the next thing you know, you've been on Instagram or Facebook for an hour, or TikTok. And there's definitely a lot of great benefits to that too. But if you're spending time and it's bringing up feelings of comparison, lowering your self-esteem, making you feel bad about yourself by what you're digesting and seeing, it's time to kind of really reevaluate, how much time am I spending online? What accounts am I looking for? And is there something better I could be doing to substitute with all this social media time as well?
You can find more information, get in contact with Kelly on her website, kellyhausmancounseling.com. That's the place to go, kellyhausmancounseling.com. And it's all about making positive change in your life.
Yep.
These reassessments, getting away from technology, sort of finding ways to center yourself. It's about taking one step forward at a time, or even taking those big steps. It all begins at trying to find more positivity in your life. So as you're making those efforts, you want to be making those efforts consciously, and you want to be making those efforts with a whole lot of focus. So what are your suggestions for people to be able to take those sorts of steps? Because for some people, those are easy steps to take, and for others, it takes a lot of work to even make that first positive step forward.
Yeah, and I'm a really big fan with clients of really setting tiny micro goals. So maybe your goal is to start eating better or is to start working out. Okay, let's start with drinking one more glass of water today, or eating one serving of fruits and vegetables, or signing up for one workout class, or doing one YouTube meditation. Something that helps you hit that bar and doesn't seem so overwhelming, so that if you miss a day or something small gets in the way, you don't feel like it's all over and we have to just scrap everything. So I love really small, attainable goals that kind of gets that motivation going for you, and it's realistic, and you're more likely to stick with it too.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's really something that you can take small efforts at, and eventually those small efforts become habits. What I like to do, because I'm more of a creative mind, there's a lot going on up here. A lot of it I don't even understand, and so what I like to do is every now and then when it gets, when I get frazzled or and I just have too much going on, I like to just get outside, go for a walk, and it kind of helps me not clear my mind, focus on something else, and maybe put some of those thoughts into action, especially as I'm thinking about more creative efforts down the line too. And those can be really impactful to find things that help you take that step back so that you can take those steps forward.
Oh yeah, yeah, and like you said, getting outside. Now we're
Yeah.
finally into spring. It's getting nicer and sunnier out. That can be a great way to get off social media, to kind of recenter yourself, just to get some fresh air. There's such power in that. That mind-body connection is huge. So I love encouraging people to get outside, take a walk, get out in nature. It really does change your entire mood.
And sometimes when we're thinking about clearing our minds or making that reset or trying to change our mindset, it's easy for people to really go toward the negative in their life. And sometimes that when you do that, it consumes you. So how do you avoid that when you're doing something of this kind, when you're spring cleaning your mental health, to not go too far in your cleaning and end up putting a lot more of that gunk and dirt and stuff into your head?
Yeah, I think probably dealing with what the negativity is bringing up in you, and that's a great way to kind of, if you can't, if it's something that's stuck with you, maybe going into therapy and talking it through, or if it's not therapy that you want to do, even just talking about some of this stuff with a friend, or journaling. There's power. I love the fact when we're in our heads and it's a negative spiral. Getting it out of your head, whether it's through talk therapy, venting to a family member or friend, or even journaling it, writing it down on your notes app, just getting it out of your head. And that is such power in that too, because you're not holding on to it. It's not festering inside of you. There is really, really a lot of power in getting it out, talking it out, and having someone else listen. Or if you don't have someone else to listen, again, journaling, writing it out on the notes, just getting it out of your head. Ooh, such a relief.
Yeah, and that's part of what connects to something else that we can do to relieve some of those stresses in our lives, and that's finding ways to organize all that's going on in our lives, including what's going on in our heads. Because, like you said, if you're writing down those thoughts, now you've got them organized. You really have a spot to look back and say, okay, this is really how I'm feeling about it. This is what triggers it. This is how it affects me. And you're better able to assess what to do with that, how to improve that, what to talk about with a professional or someone else that you trust in your life. And you can do the same thing with other things in your life to organize and get away from some of those stresses. So, in that regard, how can that organization really help toward spring cleaning your mental health, getting some things out in front of you, and finding that path forward that works for you as an individual?
Yeah, and making that to-do list. Look, all of us are forgetful. We have a million things going on. So old school, writing it down.
Yeah.
If there's things you want to do, whether it's making doctor's appointments, scheduling a workout class, whatever it is. Again, that list, there's power in crossing stuff off. And also too, it's not as overwhelming when you see it on a list. It's more manageable. Okay, cross, cross, cross. I can do this. And it's all in one place. It's organized, helps you feel better mentally too.
We're joined by Kelly Hausman, a licensed professional counselor. On today's edition of the Megacast, you can get in contact with Kelly for a consultation and more information and helpful services by visiting her website at kellyhausmancounseling.com, kellyhausmancounseling.com, and you can find her on social media on Facebook at Kelly Hausman Counseling and on Instagram at Kelly Hausman. More information, again, kellyhausmancounseling.com is her website. And Kelly, all of this kind of goes back to finding that step forward, those paths forward. It looks different for everybody, and sometimes taking those steps as an individual can be really tough. So how can consulting with a professional, with a counselor like yourself, really help people to either advance this spring cleaning, so to speak, of their mental health to the next level, or even just get a more organized start?
Mm-hmm. Basically, nowhere else on this planet can you talk and vent and get all of your deep, dark secrets out without someone judging you or inserting their own story. So I always say talking to a therapist is kind of like talking to a best friend, but they're not going to chime in about you should do this or guess what happened to me. It's really an hour of your time to sort through everything that's going on in your head. Again, with no judgment, we have heard everything. We can help you figure out a path forward. And just the power of therapy is so incredible. If you haven't tried it, I always encourage everyone. There's always something to talk about, whether it's from childhood, present, planning your future. I'm a big believer in it. And I really encourage everyone to try it.
Again, more information can be found, and you can get in contact with Kelly for consultation and counseling by visiting kellyhausmancounseling.com as we talk about reorganizing your mental health, taking a step back and figuring out where you are, where you want to be, and some things that you want to maybe change in your life as an effort of spring cleaning your mental health as you do other areas of your life at this time of the year. Kelly, we've talked about a lot. We've covered a lot in the last 15 minutes or so. We got a couple more minutes left. Anything else that we haven't discussed that would be important for our audience to consider as they're making these efforts forward or as they're considering what to be changing in their life, the positives and the negatives, and what they can do with their mental health?
I think if coming out of COVID has taught us anything, it's really that time is precious, and what we have to do it now. I have a lot of issues. Again, personally, I can be a procrastinator, but I always encourage everyone. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So let's embrace the time that we have now. Let's tackle this stuff now. It's easy to say, okay, I'll deal with this next week, next month, next year, but wherever you go, there you are. So I encourage people, take care of all of the stuff going on in your head now. Let's make a plan. Let's get through this. The sooner you start, whether it's cleaning out your closet or going to therapy to address some kind of issue that you've been holding on to, the sooner you start, the sooner you feel better, you feel lighter. So don't wait. Life can be short. Let's do this now and use that as some motivation.
kellyhausmancounseling.com is the place to go to get in contact with Kelly and talk about this and more in your life as we get into the spring season and do some spring cleaning around our home as well as right here in our heads. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, and happy spring.